Welcome back to The Evil Within. This is our Kurayami run through the DLCs. We're currently in Chapter 2, starting Chapter 2 of the assignment.
Joseph! Shit, where did he go? Well, he'll just have to fend for himself. Gotta keep on track. Find Leslie.
Now, the whole theme of the assignment is that Kidman is on an assignment from Mobius to find Leslie and bring him back to Mobius. As you can see here in the start of Chapter 2, she is still definitely on target. She is still thinking that is her assignment, and that is what she is going to do. That's what she needs to do. Each of the DLCs has only 2 chapters, so this is the second half. And we've broken each chapter into 3 videos. So this is the first third of the second half of the assignment DLC.
His name was Ruben Victoriano, but now he exists as Ruvik inside the encephalon of STEM. Ruben was brilliant, designing the entirety of the system by himself. But we conflicted over our intentions.
And what happened to him?
Ruben has been dealt with. The consequences of trusting the wrong people.
Now there's another conversation from the administrator. And it's worth noting that there are a lot of competing theories for how the administrator really is in STEM, like how that communication is happening. How much of it is the administrator talking to Kidman from a terminal outside of STEM? How much of it is Kidman's subconscious remembering what she primed her subconscious to do, which was to go find Leslie? So you can see there in the video on the green monitors that she was seeing. This is a great shot of the invisible monsters. You can see their face really well. But on that conversation in the green screens of those monitors, you hear Kidman, and so she hears herself and the administrator talking. That feels like a memory to me. That feels like something that a conversation that they actually had. To me, that's her subconscious speaking, reminding her of the conversation. And what was important in there is Ruben was the one that created STEM. She's already heard that name a couple of times now. At the end of chapter 1, she met Ruvik. And so she now has a context for it, and she said, now Ruvik knows that I'm here. We're theorizing that the reason he knows she's there is because she's using the flashlight. You saw her use the flashlight already once to open a hole in the wall that she could crawl through. This is her messing with the constructs of STEM. And that's kind of like system level access, if you will. And whenever she does things like that, that keys Ruvik off that she's there. Well, throughout chapter 1, so the 3 episodes of chapter 1, he, at the very end of that, he found her. He recognized who she was. He calls her Kid. So he knows exactly who she is at that point. She's protected from him. We saw this in chapter 1, that she's protected from him or hidden from him by the inoculation, but her use of the flashlight draws him out. It's like turning on a flashlight and he's a moth. It draws him. So she can't stay completely hidden from him.
Even more harrowing. Our subjects are dying. They come out from STEM abruptly passing with looks of horror in their eyes. The ones that do survive are catatonic, babbling, incoherent messes that we can't properly interview. We've done nothing to the process to cause this change. It must be the ever-growing collective consciousness of the STEM system. These patients seem unable to take the strain of exposure. We need more sane subjects, perhaps to cleanse the system. At its current state, the system is unsustainable. Something Mobius will not approve of. This time, only I am to blame for this. Our new prototype and beacon is almost ready. When it is, I will start its conversion to the wireless system. Even if the original STEM experiments go awry, I will show my worth to Mobius with its next generation.
And just like always, they pack so much in so quickly. But let's finish our conversation about what Ruvik told her at the end of chapter 1, which was the end of episode 3. He told her that she doesn't know the truth yet, that she doesn't know who the people that she's trusting are, that she is as expendable as the others meaning Sebastian and Joseph, who we've already heard the administrator call them expendable. And he challenges her. He says, "We'll see how loyal you are when you know the truth." And then she's pushed out of the water tank trap by Ruvik. From her perspective, she wasn't rescued by Joseph and Sebastian. She was pushed out of the trap by Ruvik. He was in the trap with her, filling it with water, and then pushed her out. Now, that's echoed in the last words of chapter 1 that we hear from the administrator is, "Do you wish to remain in the dark or do you want to hear about things that might undoubtedly make you uncomfortable?" And so, I mean, there's the creators of the game did such a great job. Hats off to Shinji, probably, but that they tie that in. Do you wish to remain in the dark? And we're playing Kurayami mode. She's in the dark and she's using a flashlight, so there's like multiple layers to that, right? But does she wish to remain willfully ignorant of the context of why she's here and what's going on around her, or not? And we're going to find out the answer to that in chapter 2. Not necessarily all of it at once here in this episode, but in the 3 episodes that we'll cover chapter 2. Okay, so then that was also echoed. Think about what in those green screens when Kidman's subconscious is reminding her of her conversation that she's already had with the administrator before she even got into STEM. That, like, well, what happened to Ruben? Ruben's this brilliant person that designed this entire system for you. What happened, Ruben? He's been dealt with. Well, her street smarts kind of understands what dealt with means. At least from her perspective, it probably means that he was killed. She doesn't know at this point exactly what happened to Ruben other than he's been dealt with. Now, she probably presumes that means killed. But that he is now a ghost in the machine. So she's thinking probably less physical and more just computer type. She's probably not thinking his brain is tied to the system. She's thinking he was killed, but the AI that he generated inside this system has a life of its own, a mind of its own to some degree. But what did the administrator say? He said the consequence. So a prelude to the second DLC, which is called The Consequence of trusting the wrong people. That little phrasing there is like a key to her subconscious. She's now realizing where she put her trust. Ruvik said, when you find out the truth, we'll see how loyal you are when you find out the truth. And now her mind is putting together that, like, she knows what the consequence of trusting these people could be. It could be being dealt with. Okay? So, I mean, all these things are coming together. They're echoing amongst each other, saying almost the same thing. That dealing with Mobius, conflicting with them. Now, we know from the main game that Ruben was dissected and made into Ruvik because the conflict that he had over the intentions, as the administrator said, over their intentions for STEM,
if Leslie's down here,
that conflict led him to locking the system to his brainwaves. And when he did that, Mobius took it very literally, and so took his brain and used it as a key to unlock the system. They were expecting the hardware. They got the hardware and the soul, so STEM became the hardware of Ruben's soul. Kidman doesn't know quite all this yet, but her brain is putting together that if you put your trust in the wrong people, if you look outward with your 90%, you give your 90% response over to someone else, that trust that you're placing in them, that control that you're giving them, it may lead to bad things. And it may lead to later on down the road, when you're not necessarily in agreement with them anymore, you being dealt with. So, all right, then let's talk a little bit about the tapes. So we saw the tape. Well, we saw the tapes. So you don't get the tapes in order. In chapter 1, you got tape number 231. In later in chapter 1, you got tape 229, and then now we just got 239. But if you look at these in chronological order, so 229 to 231 to 239, 229 is basically saying that our subjects that we attach to STEM are now coming out catatonic, and they're all describing a hooded figure. And Jimenez is theorizing that might be a ghost in the machine, that might be Ruvik. That's where that's where his first inclination that there was a ghost in the system that was Ruben Victoriano still in the system, his conscious still in the system. Then in 231, Mobius is saying, this seems unstable. We need to try more stable minds instead of the mental patients that you've been using from the Beacon Mental Hospital, and see how they respond to this. In 239, Jimenez is beginning to believe the same thing. He's thinking that maybe attaching sane minds or stable minds would somehow cleanse the system. But the people, the mental patients that he's now attaching are dying. When they come out, they're dying. It says a few of them are still surviving, but they're just babbling. They're completely gone. Their personalities are gone. They're just babbling mush now.
And about the others.
I told you before, completely expendable. They have no bearing on the mission. If they get in the way, you know what to do.
So you can see that the progression of Ruben is made into Ruvik. Ruben Victoriano is made into Ruvik by dissecting and putting his brain as the unlock to the key to the system that he had locked to his own brainwaves. After that, people start to see this kind of ghostly cloaked figure, and that ghostly cloaked figure, Jimenez is thinking might be Ruvik. Then they start to get very scared and very terrified and coming out catatonic, and now they're coming out dead. Okay, that's a progression of Ruben inside the system as Ruvik. He's progressed from barely being conscious. We saw at the end of the game, the main game, a description of him feeling all the dissection and then basically waking up in his home, the Victoriano estate, his home, his prison, with all the pain and everything that he went through in that. But that was his consciousness coming online, if you will, inside STEM, becoming the system, operating system, if you will. And as that happened, we're seeing in the progression of these Dr. Jimenez tapes that at first people just started to see him, and they were kind of all, their memories and their fears were kind of holding together inside the system. Then you see Mobius saying we need to cleanse the system we need more stable minds. Then you see Jimenez saying they're coming out dead now. We need to connect some stable minds and see if that will cleanse the system. So he's still looking at this as a sort of system problem that he thinks he can probably deal with Ruvik in some way, rather than as really what we're understanding from inside the system, that Ruvik he's not just a ghost in the machine. He's not some leftover residual memory. He is a living being. He is alive and fully in there. Okay, well that covers most of what we've caught in this episode and at the end of the last episode. Let's catch up on what the action is happening here. You can see that she was well, you couldn't see it because it was completely dark, but Joseph was walking down the sewer path there, and a sluice gate closed behind him. She has to now find 3 fuses to put in that box to reopen the sluice gate so that she can rejoin Joseph. Remember, at the end of after Ruvik pushed her out of the tank at the end of chapter 1, she and Joseph fell through the ground. That's chapter 5 from the perspective of the main game in Sebastian. So Sebastian is now jumping down in there to chase after them, but the two of them didn't fall into the same place. So this brings up kind of another topic for the lore, and that there must be time dilation here, because the time between in the main game in chapter 5, Sebastian jumps down almost immediately after them, follows them down in there, and they're together already, okay? But for Kidman and apparently for Joseph, there's this period of time when they weren't together down in here. It's a lot longer than the period of time that Sebastian takes to get down there. And you see this also just in the fact that this is already chapter 5 of the main game. I mean, Kidman's only been in here a few minutes, maybe, you know? Hardly any time. She's walked around, she did chapter 1, now she reinserted her credentials so that she can open doors with the key card, with her handprint thing. But it hasn't been nearly the amount of time that Sebastian experienced getting to this part in chapter 5. We don't get all of Joseph's story in chapter 5, but up to chapter 5, except for Sebastian pulls him out of a pod at the beginning of chapter 5. So we know that he may not have even experienced anything until just the little part of chapter 5 that they experienced. So we know that time is dilating. It's not, every person is not moving at the same speed inside of STEM, at least not from a, time perspective. The last couple of things that we saw in this episode, we saw for the first time the invisible creatures, and Kidman was able to kill something. Now remember, for Sebastian, those invisible creatures, they dropped a fair amount of green gel that he would then harvest and use to make himself more powerful. Now in the main game, we were theorizing that the regular haunted, the people that had no hope, that their response to the fear that was surrounding them was of no hope. They felt they had no hope, no recourse. Those people became haunted immediately and were just burned away. That was Ruvik harvesting their bioenergy. We're seeing now in the tapes that harvesting that bioenergy is killing people. So he's literally taking, very literally, their essence, their life. When he harvests that energy and becomes more powerful, he's taking their life. Now we theorized that from time to time Sebastian would kill a haunted, and there would be some small pool of residual goo left behind, some residual bioenergy left behind that he would then harvest. But in constructs like these, I mean, you were looking at trauma inside a water tank there with the flashlight, and also the invisible haunted, that was Ruvik investing a little bit of energy back in them. That was Ruvik putting or leaving or putting some back in. It depends on whether for the invisibles, those are actual haunted zombies, right? So it's more likely that he left some in them, but on purpose, with a purpose behind leaving some in them, making them invisible. For constructs like the trauma, that's him investing, him putting bioenergy that he has harvested and literally putting it into the creature to make them more powerful. And Kidman's about to find out just exactly how powerful the trauma is. Now, running in the dark can be hard. It can especially be hard if one of the joysticks pushed down turns off the flashlight and you wind up in the complete dark. But the goal is the same here as it is when you're playing on standard mode, survival mode, and that's to get in that hole. Just crawl in that hole. The trauma walks by. Walk over here, try to open the gate. The trauma's going to hear you open this door, and so you have to go to this, and you need to start it, but then you need to immediately let go of it, shut down. And in the dark, it's almost impossible to see him, but you can kind of see him walking there. He's going to your right, so you need to go to your left. And when you get back over to the door, you want to run again. He'll hear that running, but you go climb in the hole again, and then look outside the hole. Don't crawl outside the hole. You can if you just hit A once and you're looking there, don't hit A again because you'll climb back out. Don't push the joystick forward. Don't push the movement joystick forward. Now wait for the trauma to go by, and when he goes by, then you can run and open the door and get out. Okay, but we noticed that, so up until all through chapter 1, Kidman was only able to avoid conflict. She could not directly fight with any of the haunted. Now, if you're unlucky enough to get grabbed by one, you could kick it and that would knock it away, but you can do no real damage to them. Here in chapter 2, when she finds an axe, she probably can't kill a trauma. I mean, walking up behind a trauma and sticking another axe in him is probably not going to do anything. But she can kill even the invisible haunted that we saw at the beginning. At the beginning of this episode, we saw her kill 2 haunted that way. And when she did that, you notice one thing that was different for her than for Sebastian. Whether or not there was you've got to assume that there was still bioenergy in them, the same as there would have been for Sebastian. But she didn't notice it or see it. There was no jar of green gel. There was no puddle of green gel bubbling on the ground like there was for Sebastian. So inside a stem, when she kills something, even though there might still be bioenergy there, she's not harvesting it. She's not really even noticing it. Sebastian's subconscious was trying to become more powerful, to get stronger. Kidman's just trying to get to Leslie and get out. She's not thinking about improving herself. She's thinking, I already have everything I need. I'm just going to go about this stealthily, quietly. I'm a spy, not a warrior. I'm going to find the information I need. I'm going to get the target, and I'm going to get out with Leslie. But that difference is going to wind up being crucial to our story in chapter 2, that she is not harvesting bioenergy. It's debatable, like if a person is being forced into, if Ruvik is trying to forcefully harvest them, then that pulling of the bioenergy out of them, if that tie is broken, that bioenergy has to go somewhere. If Ruvik pulls it out, if the person is able to get out of it without all of their bioenergy coming out, they may not die. They may be one of the comatose people that was described in one of Jimenez's tapes, rather than dying. So it becomes important to realize that Kidman's not harvesting. So now you can question whether or not what that exactly means when Sebastian harvests. Is he killing the people, or did Ruvik already kill them and he's only getting the residuals? My personal opinion is they're already dead and there's only residuals left in him, or bioessence that he's placed back into him. All right, we'll leave you with that, wondering who came through that door and what Kidman's going to find on the other side of that door. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it.